Welcome to another thrilling episode of the Postmodern Polymath podcast. This is episode 114. And instead of, trying to do the reveal, it's Zach. I mean, it's not like y'all don't know him already. So, Lyman is on vacation. I don't know what he's doing, but he's whatever. Anyway, he'll be back probably next week. So, Zach, first of all, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I got a beer you got me. I like this you getting me beer. I feel
Yeah,
like this could become a thing.
yeah,
The
totally.
2019 Black Bell Honey, which is a variant they haven't done before. It's just a sweeter version, I guess, and then Dragon's Milk. I just had to do a little comparison. So, like, where's Waldo? Can you tell the difference? Ooh.
There's more head on that one. I got a beer that you got me, which of course is a rarity. Okay, obviously that's bullshit. Um, Eschaton, which is a quad. I've had this. It's from your hometown, I believe.
Yep, it's from Wild Heaven in
Wild
Atlanta,
Heaven.
but the strange thing is I like going to bottle shops in Nashville and they'll have a whole section of just Atlanta stuff. And it's like, oh, I can get this at home, okay. But they're definitely spreading out the distro.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's okay. Um, I'm just so used to stouts now. I guess it's just, yeah, whatever. I try to spread out, but I just quit fooling myself. You know, I just want stouts. Unless it's during the summer, and I'll drink some pills, maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe. Depends.
I
But
know there's one place that supposedly does good lagers but that might have been one of those places in East Nashville. I heard something bad happened there. So what's happened in Nashville?
very good segue. You're a host, I can tell. Um, so yeah, there's a tornado ripped through here Tuesday. Was it Monday night? I guess it was, or Tuesday morning. Ripped through here. I don't remember the EF rating was, but it was pretty bad because it went through East Nashville and just tore some shit up. I didn't see all the damage. I wasn't hit. East Nashville mostly was hit, and then I think Putnam County, which is oh yeah, Putnam County, which is Cookville, which is further east, I believe. Yeah, so it went from East Nashville to Hermitage, I think, to Mount Juliet, and kind of went out to Putnam Cookville, which is all it's like 24. Well, no, 40 east, not 24 east. So it kind of went up line 40 east all the way to Cookville. But anyway, there was some destruction and there was a couple of deaths. I don't remember how many. It was a
I
couple of
heard 2 or 7.
two.
So it's a pretty high number, but there is good news. You know what the good news is?
What?
With the coronavirus going around, there's like all these shortages on paper towels. Well, Trump's coming, so he might throw you a roll.
He said he might. Did he say for sure he was? I thought he was just. I was hoping it was just.
It's hard to say.
But anyway, yeah. So to all the people out there who were affected by the tornado, I hope y'all are okay. To the people who have died or lost loved ones or had property damage, obviously my heart goes out to you. And instead of praying, maybe you can contribute or give money to one of these organizations that actually does something. In case y'all forgot, I'm an atheist podcast. So.
Well, there is a hot chicken place near you, Prince's, and they're actually collecting like food and water and all kinds of stuff. I've actually seen it on my Facebook feed. So just down the road from you. So if you happen to be in Nashville, and I actually know friends who are I think they're planning on coming up this weekend to help because they're going to need help for a while. It does sound like neighborhoods were wiped out, and
Yeah.
it was friends of my parents have been working on a house for a decade, and they end up in the basement, and the whole rest of their house is not even there anymore. So it was pretty. I mean, even with like a hurricane, you get a little bit of advance notice, but like tornadoes, you're not expecting that to happen. I know Nashville had like that crazy flood that happened I don't even know how long ago that was. A decade ago? That was pretty extreme. But, weather, unpredictable, right?
Yeah. So my physical therapy clinic got damaged where there's like 20 different locations. But that's closer to my work and I'm inconvenienced. Okay? That's what's important.
That
Look at
is important.
my pain. My pain is important. So, or the relieving of the pain. Seriously. There's actually an organization that's collecting donations through Tennessee. I can't remember. Community share. I have to look it up because I've shared it, but I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna share it on the Facebook page and on the show notes and my page again because I forgot what it is. But if you see anything that you can contribute to, anything you can give, food, water, clothing, whatever, please do so. This kind of shit just sucks for people who are affected by it. So it'll be even suckier if fucking the orange overlord comes by here. So
Yeah, it's there's a lot of bad things going on, but that's kind of a life changer. And then help people get back on their feet. Do something. Try to do something good. That'd feel good, right?
yeah, it's always good, even if you can't go out and like do like stuff like me because I'm lazy and my shoulder's fucked up. Give contributions and don't, of course, research. Don't just be giving money to Billy Joe Bob who says he's collecting money. Because there's people who were grift off that shit, and that makes me mad. People who grift off fucking, you know, tragedies and shit. So, I'm like I said, I'm gonna share it. Share the one I found, and if you know any other reputable ones, give that to that too. So, I did want to mention Deborah Smith is in the chat room. How's my shoulder?
See, now I understand how these things go.
Yeah, she actually asked a question that I'll answer.
Ooh, did you hear that? I'm gonna lose my audience because they ask questions in my chat and I ignore them. So
You ignore them on a regular
yeah.
basis. And you don't have the beard. You might get fucked over.
Stopped listening to Pope Hat to be here.
So yeah,
weird
the
is I
shoulder
can't-
is better, getting better, I guess. Are you not seeing the comments?
I'm seeing it. I just as the guest, I can't comment. I probably have to go to the YouTube page and do that.
Yeah, you can't.
Huh.
You can't.
That explains why. See, the default, and that's one thing that my guests have told me, is that the default is the private chat, which is just between us, and
Right.
unless the audio isn't working, you never use that.
Right.
So yeah, so I can't even comment. Oh well, that's good.
No, well, it's all.
I'll just comment with my mouth. Weird. Yeah, Chris is okay. His right arm is really strong because he can lift beers. I witnessed that.
Yeah.
Last weekend.
Oh yeah. Well, we should talk about that. But I got the splint off. Well, the sling. I basically begged to get it off. I was like, "Can I please take this fucking thing off already?" So yeah, I gotta take. I'm still doing physical therapy. It's just slow. It's frustrating, but what are you gonna do? Gotta do what you gotta do. Zach did come up last weekend. He was kind enough to take us, me and the lady friend, to the the inaugural game of the Nashville Soccer Club, which very creative name. And actually was kind of, I mean, it was neat because I haven't been to the stadium since a preseason game years ago when I went to the Titans. But it was kind of chilly, sure. My fat ass, I don't like cold too much, so. But that was fairly warm, I guess. I had the jersey on my jacket. We had dinner at the old Rock Bottom Brewery down there, downtown, before we traipsed across the old pedestrian bridge and went to the stadium. So, Zach, what were your thoughts about the game?
Well, I was a little worried seeing Atlanta we have this soccer team there. I think this is their 4th year, and they fill up the Mercedes-Benz the football stadium here. So I heard that in Nashville they were going to play in the Titans Stadium this year because they're, I guess there's a controversy or not about them building a separate soccer stadium. It's really weird. Major league teams, they tend to have stadiums that are like in the 25,000 range, and Atlanta United generally gets 40 to sometimes 70, and they had 59,000 people there. So I got like a parking space in advance, and it turned out I was the only car in that lot. But it actually worked out because we got to walk like a mile or so. And yeah, we went to Rock Bottom Brewing, and you think like, hey, you go to a different city, you should go to a brewery and get the city's beer. Well, at Rock Bottom Brewery, which has locations around the country, they had a bourbon barrel stout. They had a Four Roses bourbon barrel Scotch ale. Chris bought me beer, so I had some. The only downside is I didn't finish my pizza, and we tried to hide it so we could take it home. And of course, we went home a different way. So no leftover pizza for you. But it was nice of him to take me out, and the lady friend. Hopefully, she didn't totally hate the whole experience. I mean, you go to a Titans game, you sit down pretty much the whole game. You go to a soccer game, I don't think we sat down the whole time. Yeah. And probably not good for someone who's just, come off major surgery. But the thing was, an Atlanta player got carted off, and we were kind of like, those soccer players, they just flop. Well, he tore his ACL, so I think that was a legitimate injury. Okay. That was the best player on the Atlanta team. But, soccer, the action is constant. I mean, the good news about a soccer game is it's a 90-minute event, but it's over in 2 hours. NFL game is 60 minutes of time, but it takes 3.5 hours. So at least with a soccer game, you're out of there in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it was a good time. The home team at least scored. They had a chance. They lost. But, yeah, it is strange, like, because the Atlanta team's called Atlanta United, and, like, every team is called it something United, something football club, something soccer club. Imagine every team in the National Football League being called the Tennessee Football Club somethings.
They're trying to be like European teams, I guess, where they just have the city, I guess. Because I know, did they change all the names of all the original teams? Because initially they all had, like, team names, like, Colorado Rapids.
They just call them Atlanta United, but I swear a third of the teams in the league are called that.
Chicago Fire.
But really, I mean, it's a friend of my dad's who has season tickets for the Titans, and he has season tickets for everything. And he just pretty much gave us tickets. So I was like, okay, sure. I kind of wanted to go. But I do kind of prefer the home experience because, you can eat and drink whatever you want. But it was fun to go to the initial game. I think we actually got there right after the kickoff. But they kind of were very efficient. We got to the game. We saw the whole thing. We went home and, game ended at 9:30 and you were probably home by 10:30. So it wasn't too bad.
I was passed out because I had stayed up too late the night before, I think. So, yeah, it was a pretty long day for me. But, I'll be okay. I'm sure y'all are worried about that.
But we are continuing a tradition. Like sometimes at the end of a soccer match, players will exchange jerseys. Well, we exchanged beer.
Yeah, that's
so that worked out. And even though this time, I found a couple of beers for you that were specific for you, and some were just beers that I'd bought, and I was like, Chris will probably like this more than me. I got a Russian. Maybe you can give it a review. So I actually, for the first time ever, actually bought a real stout from Russia, not just a Russian stout. So kind of intrigued what your review is of that. It's gonna be short, right?
Yeah, as I had told you before when we went on air, I wasn't terribly impressed. It was bitter in a bad way because I'll drink stouts that are bitter, but it's got a certain consistency and it has a certain flavor to it. This was more like an IPA, hoppy bitter, and I did not like that. It was too thin. It was thin, and it just wasn't. It's not what I'm used to. It's not the quality I'm used to, Zach. I'm a little disappointed.
Chris is used to his stouts being kind of a motor oil consistency. Is that more like it?
Yeah, the 1050 fit
that
bill. But
See, there's a place, and it was Brian of Scenic City Skeptics, which I believe is on possibly an indefinite hiatus now. Told me about a place called Beverage World, and it's just over the Georgia border of Chattanooga, and it has a really good selection. That's where I find there was a salted caramel milk stout, and they were like $5 there, so I got that. And then I saw that stout, and they had the 1050, which is Oscar Blues out of Colorado, and it's pretty well, like you can get it anywhere. And they had a version that was from 2010. I'm like, oh, sure, it's 10 years old. Why not? I don't think I've ever noticed when I've had aged beers the difference between a one this year. I mean, I have a double in my fridge here. It's the original. The first one I ever bought that I aged on purpose is from 2014, and I haven't had it yet. I'm sure I'll be disappointed one time. Yeah, I know. Can't you just drink a beer? I did take a picture. There's a local beer called Beer Flavored Beer, and I took a picture because I have friends who, like, when I talk about beer, they're like, can't you just have a beer that tastes like beer? No. No.
what the fuck? What the fuck?
I mean, it's actually tonight. It's pretty straightforward. This is a bourbon barrel aged with honey, and then there's a regular bourbon barrel stout.
You know what?
But for me, it's straightforward.
People who say shit like that, why don't you just drink a regular beer? These are the kind of motherfuckers that go to Pizza Hut for pizza instead of going to like a local chain and think it's fucking delicious. Look here, man.
And they're kind of people who vote for fucking Joe Biden.
Okay.
Kissed his granddaughter on the lips at a rally? What's going on here? Even Trump hasn't pulled that off, and trust me, he wants to.
Just let me finish this off. First of all, you brought me a Bud Light.
I did, yes.
It'll get drank.
I would explain. First, there's two layers to this. First of all, I know if I bring this guy, is that how it goes? This guy, this guy,
yeah,
a beer. Yeah, this is a professional show. Yeah, we go around all the way around the world to you. If I bring this guy a beer, whatever it is, he's probably going to drink it. And my family had a big party. My parents had their 50th wedding anniversary and 70th birthdays close to each other. So most of my family drinks Bud Light. So they had the Tennessee Titans because the Bud Light has the cans for each NFL team. And they had a bunch left. And my parents don't drink beer. They drink wine, but they don't drink beer. So I was like, sure, I'll add that. I was making a little joke. I was like, hey, let's just make a little beer joke and then include it with real beer. Because if I just brought him a Bud Light, now that could have been the end of the friendship. Nothing like making a bad comment on Facebook or Twitter. No, a bad beer could end a friendship. And, I respect that.
I don't know. Some of the shit I've been seeing lately.
Well, we got time to go into whatever. This is going to be a rollicking, free-flowing talk tonight, right?
Yeah, basically. But last thing about beer, if you drink Bud Light, back in my day, we didn't have fancy beer. The microbreweries didn't really kick into like how long ago? It couldn't have been more than like 5 years ago is when they started.
I mean, when I moved to Atlanta in '96, I think there were like 5 or 6 breweries in town. And now there's 90 in the state of Georgia.
Yeah,
that Canadian guy was like, American beer stinks. It's like, we have 6,000 breweries. You can get literally anything, and you can get stuff that you wish you had never heard of, but you can also get stuff that's right up your alley, which is what I do.
That's why they're microbrews. And the idea of my good beer back in the day was Newcastle and shit. That's the best.
Yeah, Newcastle. Bass, and then maybe you get like a Samuel Smith because that's from England. It's like an import. Ooh,
Yeah, that's the best you could hope.
I mean, Newcastle's an import too, but
now
there wasn't much. Shinerbach, maybe,
yeah, that
thing, and then like Sweetwater in Atlanta. They've been there for like 23 years, so they were around. So they had a few different options.
So,
but now it's crazy. You go to a store. I went to Midtown Cork Dorks in downtown Nashville, and they probably have, I don't even know,
they have
300, 400 different beers, including all that super. I only got one really boozy beer that I'm going to save for a special occasion. It's like an Avery 15% cherry vanilla chocolate stout. I'm like, okay. I didn't even get worldwide stout, which I usually get. It's from Dogfish Head, and that's like 18%. That
I
is
can't make
that is
myself pay
very
that much.
hot. They call beers that are very boozy
Yeah, I
hot.
learned that.
18%. Yeah, that's almost a mixed drink.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's when we went
It's
Cape.
proof.
We found that term out, my friend and I, when we went to the KBS unveiling last year. I think it was the Kentucky Breakfast Stout. Yeah, they do every year. They do a new fucking brew, whatever version of the Kentucky Breakfast Stout from Founders.
And that thing's sitting on shelves anywhere you want to find them. Used to be
Because they're
impossible to
too
get.
fucking
I
expensive.
think there've been these beers that have been hard to get for years, and they're like, all right, we're gonna make a bunch more, and now there's so many options. Like if the Kentucky Breakfast Stout is basically a bourbon barrel stout, but it includes coffee. You go into a store, you can find 50 different versions of that.
Yeah.
You got 50,
Well, now
10.
they're talking
So,
about
yeah.
making a year-round beer, which is a good idea, but considering they got so much sitting out there, they can't sell
Yeah.
it. That's probably
They had
what
the
they're doing.
espresso version, which I don't remember being very interesting, but you probably.
It was okay.
It was okay.
It was thinner. I mean,
Well, that's no good.
it wasn't horrible. It just wasn't thick as I'm used to. All right, so enough talk about beers. We're gonna go a little bit into
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna move on sometime, right?
You're the host, man.
So Super Tuesday wasn't too super for Bernie, was it, Zach?
I didn't watch it. I hear Deborah was in the fetal position in a corner, clutching a bottle of bourbon, perhaps. Although Deborah, according to rumor, only has 2 legs, but I think she has like 3 twisted ankles right now. So I don't know if she's in the alcohol field. It's one twisted and one broken or something. And by the way, I've not heard the story. I might have to get her on. Although after last night, Deborah and many people on my Facebook feed might want to maybe paying attention to politics isn't such a good thing. Because we had this whole situation. I don't know why after what's happened in the past, 40 years of American politics, why we can predict what's going on. But we had this Democratic shit show, and it's funny to see like the never Trumper conservatives like making fun of the Democratic field. I'm like, the last 2 elections, the Republican field has been a clown circus, and then like half of them are in the cabinet now. So joke's on us. But so yeah, there are going to be a lot of people. But what was really strange is I was in Nashville last weekend, as rumor had it, and there was either a rally with Pete Buttigieg there, or it was a rally for Pete Buttigieg in Nashville, like on Saturday, and he was out of the race, I think, on Sunday. So I think some calls went in, and maybe some promises were made, because Pete and Amy Klobuchar were gone by Tuesday, which narrowed the field to, I think, 4, and then Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know what's going on with her.
She's still in.
She must just be like chilling. I don't know.
The Russians need an insight.
I have no idea. But anyway, yeah, we really thought not only is Bernie leading, but he's going to like be dominant by the end of Tuesday night. And it turned out that Joe Biden, who by the way didn't even really make an effort in a lot of these states, won just about everything. Although Michael Bloomberg won was American Samoa. I was like, wow, this guy put in like $700 million, which is like 58 cents to each of us. It's like a third of a beer. And yeah, he's out. But yeah, it wasn't good because like even after Tuesday night, I was looking forward to voting for Elizabeth Warren. I'm in Atlanta and we're not voting for 3 weeks. I don't think she's going to be here. Or if she is, it's going to be too late. Because even after Tuesday, she still has fewer delegates than Pete Buttigieg. So, yeah, I'd say hasn't gone well for her. Hasn't gone well if you don't like old white guys, basically. Because now it's Biden versus Sanders. And we knew it was going to narrow at some point. And here we are, feeling rather narrow. And many people are feeling rather depressed and hopeless. So,
except the usual suspects of rich, powerful people who it's just status quo is always good for them because they keep making money.
I know a lot of people who are politically astute. I don't. Out of all those, I don't see anyone who's like, yeah, Joe Biden. I've been talking about him for months. Like maybe people who voted for him, but I don't
It's
know.
the
It's not
same.
like I don't know if it's excitement as much as fear. And Biden clearly is taking advantage of his connection to Obama, and we're like, oh, everything was great, though maybe not as great as you think it was. But you know, Obama
Well,
was better than the current situation. Clearly, I mean, you can't even compare. And
I
and for
it's
people to be, yeah, I mean, it's day one. You know, what is it? The 5 stages of grief. We're not even on stage 1 yet.
I don't
But there is
know.
a lot of today's feed on Facebook and Twitter. It was just like terrible because it was like, what the hell happened? And I'm a Bernie supporter, and if he loses, I'm going to not only not vote for Biden, I'm going to vote for Trump.
Okay,
And you know what? Maybe that calms down in a month, but that kind of feeling is, I'm thinking, pretty, yeah, widespread.
you know what? This is my podcast. I'm gonna call her out right now. Sally Hunt is out of her fucking gourd, y'all. She went from cultish Bernie supporter, only Bernie. She wasn't gonna vote for any, but now she's gonna not only vote for Bernie, she's going to vote for Trump if Bernie doesn't get the Democratic nomination.
See in the back of this glass, it's the motto of this brewery: Transcendo Mediocris, transcend mediocrity.
Oh,
In
what?
America,
How pretentious is that? But
we
anyway,
could use some we could use some mediocrity, it'd be a step up. I mean, so it's a brewery called Three Taverns, and it's based on, there's something in the Bible about three taverns. And I'm like, who's fucking drinking beer in the Bible? Well, actually, a few people are, but yeah, you're not so into the Latin, I hear. Yeah, I've gotten all this. I promote him a lot on my show. He's local. He's a Benjamin Dixon, but he's kind of gone on the it's okay if Bernie people harass people on Twitter thing. And I can see why people want a revolution and they want change and they want Medicare for all and they want student debt abolished. They want a more equitable system. They want people to actually have hope for the future. That sounds great. But if you can't acknowledge that Bernie supporters are being dicks to people, and especially women, all those snake emojis with Elizabeth Warren, like that has meaning. And, people deal with a lot of crap on the internet and, white straight guys, not as much. So you have to at least acknowledge that that does happen. And the people who support Bernie a lot are just kind of like very myopic and just like, he'll be the savior. And I'm like, we really need to get past the idea that we need this savior now. The way we have our political system and the president has all his power, he gets to do whatever the hell he wants in a way. But if Bernie's president, are we getting Medicare for all passed? Are we getting all this stuff passed? I mean, it's tough. I don't know if the Senate's going to work out because they're only a third of the seats are open. And a lot of people like Doug Jones in Alabama are in tough spots. So maybe Mitch McConnell gets kicked out in Kentucky, but I don't know about that. So
yeah,
hard to say what people want and what they're going to get. Like, we want dramatic change. Like, people want a dramatic change from Trump, but they forgot the only dramatic change that he was really attached to was like white nationalism. So
what is he really?
they worked out well for them so far.
I mean, there's three branches of government, but sometimes people seem to forget that. Okay. Supposedly they're co-equal. Of course, that's questionable. But we got the judicial branch, which, Jesus fucking Christ, that's trending way right. And the congressional, I don't know what the fuck you're at this point, man. The GOP just doesn't give a fuck. They are going to burn this. They want to burn this country down as long as they get their way. And then there's the Democrats who sit there and fucking just take it. I mean, that's been the pattern to me.
I mean, that's the thing about Biden that gets me is he's like, oh, I might have a Republican vice president. I'm like, well, your vice president pick is very critical because you're old AF. and
Did you say
re-
old AF?
AF and reaching across the aisle. I mean, that's one thing the Bernie fans get is like, you don't negotiate with terrorists. You know who you don't reach out to Trump voters to get people to vote. You reach out to the people who didn't vote before, who might like you, but they're just like, voting doesn't mean anything. Maybe that makes
Well,
a difference because you're not turning that tide. Like there's going to be a certain percentage. It's like a third, a third, a third, and the extreme on both sides are going to stay there, and the people in the middle maybe have a chance with them. And I don't know how many there are. We'll see. Oh, Deborah and her research. She sends
I'm
articles all the time, and I'm like, reading? Come on. You made me listen to Popat talk about lawyer stuff, and I just legal stuff for me on a podcast. It's a little tough.
yeah, it sucks having fans like that.
It's a tough listen. I mean, I listen to enough political stuff, and I'm getting weary, and I'm someone who pays more attention than I would think most do.
Yeah,
You have to get weary. I mean, it's just this depressing stuff all the time. Like the stuff that Trump's doing that we're not noticing right now. You know how he got, what is it, $2 billion from like Deutsche Bank, and it's like 2 days later it's totally out of the news. I mean, that's the way to go. Just keep, putting the stuff out there, and then someone has to be outraged about something new. No, Deborah sounds good stuff. I just, it's tough for me to read it all. And you know what? I was going to, we talked about having like people on to talk about all the candidates on the Democratic side. And now we're down to 3, 4, 2 that matter. So it's not really going to be a long show for that.
Yeah, technically it's
The window's closed for that.
4, I guess. So it's Bernie, Biden, Warren technically still in, and Tulsi for whatever reasons.
I'm a little surprised, and now I'm a little worried what my Facebook feed's going to look like. Because if I watch a YouTube video, I'd get like 2 Bloomberg ads. And if I listen to podcasts, actually, what is it? Some More News, they made a joke that they did an entire episode of they're making fun of Bloomberg, and they said the ads were going to be Bloomberg, and they actually weren't. But, just the way I was surprised that a bunch of the centrists, and I'll put that in quotes, who were like pro Bernie, then pro Trump last time, didn't just go super pro Bloomberg and get paid, because I've heard a lot of political operatives, and maybe we need to pay attention to that, are getting paid a ton by Bloomberg, and now I guess the checks are done. So who knows?
Yeah, there's a local person here named Holly McCall, which pissed me off because okay, there's something called the Tennessee Holler. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this. It's kind of a internet news source. It's kind of like left leaning, and it gives like the Democratic view of Tennessee politics or whatever. Well, she co-founded this uh, publication or whatever you want to call it. Well, now she's pissed me off because people never piss me off because I follow her on Twitter, and all of a sudden she's like, if you don't like Bloomberg, then you probably should stop following me for a while. So she
it might be over now.
Yeah, she sold her soul for fucking Bloomberg for like what, a month? I mean, I don't know, man.
There's an entire political class out there that make a ton of money, and some of them don't give a crap. If you ever watched like Parks and Rec, there was a character that they kept bringing back. It was like a political consultant, and it may have been an extreme version, but it's like, I cover all these people and I try to get them elected, and I do this marketing and I make a lot of money. And that's the thing. The mainstream version of Democratic and well, I don't know what Republican is anymore, but there's still a lot of money behind it. So it's going to be tough. And now it's coalesced. And I'm wondering, like, if Warren drops out, is she going to say, I'm going for Biden? Because when it comes to politics, the person was gone, because somebody posted today that I think it was 1996 that Bernie voted for gay marriage and Biden voted against gay marriage. And who said, I'm all Biden? Buttigieg. So
yeah, I don't. Well, that's yeah. Buttigieg wrote a
Hopefully
fucking
Buttigieg is
paper in
like,
fucking
hey, I'm
high
getting some
school.
kind of cabinet post if Biden wins, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's what it all is. And Beta O'Rourke,
I guess fine.
I mean, whatever. It's just gross to me. So all the centrists are lining up behind Biden. I did hear that Bernie was talk to Warren on the phone today because she put
Trying to
out
get her out.
she put out a thing saying she's considering what to do next, her next steps or whatever.
Talk among
So I'm
yourself. I have to. There's a cockroach on my wall I have to crush, so I'm gonna mute.
cockroach on your fucking amateur. When I was living at the other place, there were fucking cockroaches having parties in my house and shit. I mean, come on, man. But anyway, so um, Warren
Just
may come out. Well, I voted for Warren in the primary, and I got shit for that from the Bernie lovers. There's a guy who's been on this show, and I don't want to name him right now because
oh,
not you, but
starting
he's
shit to
not.
not get fans.
Yeah, you have to have fans first. Yeah. And you wanted to talk bad move, man. It's a wasted vote. Man, go fuck yourself, okay? I don't give a fuck what you think. I don't like it when people do that.
I would, yeah, tread carefully with like the last female candidate we have because we know Warren is done, but
Oh, they don't care.
she
See,
would make a good president, and I don't know if it's everything that people say about women they don't say about men. In her case, maybe there's certain reasons. Like, I mean, they didn't even
it's
win Massachusetts, so something's going on.
sexism. I'm telling you,
But
man, it's just straight up misogyny.
I don't know. I'm like, man, I remember seeing her on Jon Stewart, and then like she should run in 2016, then she didn't, and that was unfortunate because maybe that was her shot. But yeah, this is not happening. But you should get to like, I don't think until you get to the actual presidential election can you say, oh, I'm voting for someone like strategically. Like,
It's
you
stupid.
should get to vote for you want to because you're in a state that's probably going to go red.
Anyway. It's not like it's a
Like
swing
Georgia,
state.
pretty likely is going to go red. Florida, Deborah, Florida, what a state.
She ditched you. It looks like.
I don't blame her. Pope hat is very sexy.
So yeah, anybody who says that shit when the primary is especially this early can suck each ball separately. The left one's very sensitive.
There's this thing about just attacking people that's very popular now, and I'm sure there could be some good conversations that could be had. But man, I feel like 50% of my Facebook feed today was people saying either I'm Bernie or bust, or if you're Bernie or bust, you can unfriend me because I don't need to hear your shit anymore. I mean, that's what today was, and I'm like, yeah, I think people just are sick of it, and I don't blame them. Like, okay,
It's just the season.
I mean, that's why I've been less of a sports fan because you get so like just have this laser focus on like if this team wins, my life has meaning, and if they don't, then I don't, and then you go, wait, what am I doing? And then you do this with political candidates, and you want great things to happen, but politics is just dirty as hell. And all of your darlings you've loved as politicians have done some shitty things. I mean, think of all the stuff that come out about Obama. Everybody's like, we love Obama. And it's like, well, there's some things he did that weren't so great. But that's what happens in politics. It's usually there's some compromise involved. I mean, you're in a relationship, I'm in a relationship, and I'm talking with cats. Okay, maybe that's a bad example because you don't compromise with cats. You don't compromise with terrorists. What do they want? You do it. So maybe in a relationship with another human being, yeah, you have to compromise. And think about that. You do it, and it's not the worst. It's fine. It's probably a win.
Well, it depends. I don't know. In certain situations, compromises. Well, I don't know. I'm just not. No, I don't always.
You don't know
with that. No, when it comes to fucking the current GOP and Trump, fuck them. You're gonna fucking bulldoze over their ass because they sure as fuck ain't gonna do nothing. They refuse to. They don't even fucking care. They don't care. So what's the point of trying to come? I mean,
Well,
when Mitt Romney voted to get Trump. Oh my God! You thought this motherfucker? I'm surprised somebody didn't jack his ass up. To be honest with you, I mean, you'd have thought he'd have fucking assassinated somebody. You know. So I mean, what? Because there's a little character. I don't. You know. I don't know, man. Everything's so far out of whack. Everything's gone so far right. I think, and it's just so polarized. It's just man, it's just all fucked up. And Biden,
yeah, but
look, Biden is whatever. I mean,
Biden is whatever.
he's nobody likes him. Let's be real. I think I've talked to one person who like out and out just was woohoo Biden, but nobody else is woohoo Biden, dude. Everybody else is just like, oh, Biden, okay.
Yeah, Obama's VP, and really, again, he's another person that 2016 was his window, but from what I remember, like his son had died of cancer recently, so he decided not to. But plus, I think the Democrats were basically like, okay, Hillary's our it's her turn. We thought it was her turn in 2008. We had somebody jump the line.
Yeah,
And to all the Bernie lovers, there is one thing that just doesn't get said enough. Bernie's an independent. Why wouldn't the Democrats try to get somebody else elected? Now, if they're like being skeezy about it, yeah, it's the worst part of politics, but he's an independent. Why
yeah, there
can't he
is
run as
that
an
little.
independent? He can't because he wouldn't win. So there you go.
The DNC, as much
You have
as
to
it
hold your nose, and
sucks,
that's what you do, and that's what
as much as
we're
you
going
hate
to do.
it, they make the fucking rules, and they can pretty much they
Mm-hmm.
can do what the fuck they want. Hell, they can have a brokered convention and fucking pick somebody out of the air. They've done that shit before. Like, oh no, none of y'all are
Yeah,
going.
it's
We're
happened a
picking
lot in
somebody.
history. Like the whole thing, like in Lincoln, like he was like fifth or sixth in votes, and then it was like after the 50th ballot, they're like, let's give this guy a shot. So yeah, that's happened a lot in history. And we
So
forget that our political system was developed by a bunch of like slave owning white assholes, and we're like, this is holy all of a sudden, and maybe it's not.
oh, that drives me crazy.
We could do for. I don't think the Constitution was supposed to last this long. We could do for a
Fucking
reset button, although
a reset. Fucking
I had an idea for a segment tonight. Well, I had a few, but one of them was which country are we going to move to after the election? Because I know some people in Canada. I feel like fighting for space on people's couches is going to be tough.
well, I know a couple of Canadian people, so I'm in a
Well, you
better
could
position.
technically, marry someone and become, you can be set.
That would require somebody wanting to marry me,
Mm,
which is not, which, which may be a difficult
all this.
proposition in the best of times. I don't know if that'd be something I'd have to pay him probably, and I'm broke, more ways than one. Um, so I don't know, man. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna leave the country if if Trump wins again? Although I've said this before, Trump is so incompetent that he hasn't been able to fuck shit up too bad. I mean, it's fucked up, but it's not really anything that can't be reversed within the first. Because like the tax cuts, you can reverse tax cuts. But it's
I mean,
his damage that he's inflicted is mostly
oh, there it is.
white people.
Now I'm gonna get it.
Okay, there's a cockroach
Talk.
apparently. So he's riled up these white supremacist types, and don't think they haven't been there already. They've been there the whole time. He's just inflamed their passions. He's like getting this fear of white people are afraid to fucking admit that they're going to be like the minority in like what 50 years or some shit, or 30 years or whatever it is.
America. Fuck yeah. I killed it.
Okay, that's right. So they're terrified, man. I mean, they're scared shitless. That's why they're doing everything they can to suppress votes, non-white votes, and
I mean, I heard in Texas there was one location where they said they had 25 voting machines for Republicans, and I'm like, why are there any like who's running? There are people running against Trump in theory, but they're not really. I think one person has one delegate, and
Bill
yeah,
Weld.
not Matt Walsh, baby. He dropped out. God, it's bad when people are like Matt Walsh, Jennifer Rubin, yeah, they're in, never Trumpers. I'm like, no, don't go there ever.
So yeah,
I
that's the
know.
only
Was there
thing
a point?
Trump.
No, there wasn't a point.
There wasn't. Trump hasn't done anything that's well, except Supreme Court. That's the only thing that you've been.
Judiciary and yeah, tax cuts and the. I mean, I was driving home and there was a sign that was like a pro-Trump thing. It had 4 things listed, and one was America First. And I'm like, what American president hasn't been America First? None. You can pretend. The second one was like rebuilding our military. I'm like, oh, you took our military budget from 750 billion to 800
What are
billion.
you
Wow,
talking about?
way to rebuild. And the other two were like helping veterans, and I'm like, yeah, I bet veterans could beg to differ. And the other one was like cops, and I'm like, this is what
We
people are like, woo, excited about. Like,
we're
seriously?
established.
I
We've
mean, it's
established
mostly
ourselves a caps lock.
making liberals cry. Like I saw a bumper sticker on a car and it was like Trump 2020 make liberals cry again. I'm like, you're not for anything, you're against things. And hey, it's fun to be against things. That's why sports is fun. But in politics, God, that's just like you're taking away, like you're dehumanizing people, which is the Trump special.
I would argue
Because
the
Trump
GOP.
don't like himself so much. So clearly he always talks about the things that he did and then he projects it on others. It's pretty transparent, but yeah, it's the way
It's pathetic. But then
it
again,
is.
he's reflecting people, so people who voted for him obviously feel that way too. So it's just a lot of sadness, in this country. It's sad, really. It's pathetic, and I
Sad.
really fear for the future. I don't have any kids, and I won't have any kids. Neither of us will.
Yeah,
So
we both had the snip. Yeah,
yeah, so we're good. As far as well, I mean, yeah, I'm not. I'm empathetic. I'm not totally like without empathy, but still, man, I don't.
sure about that.
I mean, it's buried deep within
I
me.
mean, I feel like you have empathy for cats and memes, but I'm not sure what else.
Well, it's because if I revealed everything, that'd be like a weakness. It'd be like the Death Star. You're not seeing the port. I'm not showing you the port, the small
Well,
port
I'm
holes
glad
in
you're
it.
not, because that's something that one of my cats likes to do is show me the port, the exhaust port, as it were. It's like, hey, want to see this? No, I don't care. You're looking, yeah, just a little
Wake up
dance.
with an ass in your face or whatever. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
hello. Thanks for sharing that.
That's how they say hi. That's how they say I love you.
All right, well, we've wasted this entire. We were supposed to talk about a show. Fuck it. We're going to talk about one of the shows. There's no way we have time for both. The Expanse is the one I want to hit on, mostly because.
Okay.
Have you watched Altered Carbon at all?
I watched season 1 and I heard reviews of season 2, and so far I've not seen a lot of excitement. Although I like how Altered Carbon, because the storyline of Altered Carbon is like 300 years in the future, and people are basically switching their consciousness into new bodies. So in season 2, the main character in season 1 is a different actor because that's what happens. So yeah, it's set in the future, which is also what happens in the Expanse, which I don't know if you've read the books. Like I've read all the books,
Oh, I did.
and I'm kind of like, oh, what are they going to do with it? Because it gets bigger and bigger as all the seasons happen. And we got, yeah, just season 4, because I think the Expanse was it 3 seasons or was it 2 on Sci-Fi, and then it went to Amazon.
It's
But it's
two. It was two on.
it's cool that
Sci-Fi.
shows can make that transition,
Well,
because
there was
a
a
show
big
about
push.
the solar system is going to have a pretty high budget, and I don't know if it's going to have a super high audience. So it's cool that they've been able to get at least 4, and I think 5's already being done. So
There
at least
was a
we know
big
what's going on.
petition after Sci-Fi said it was going to cancel. There was a big
But the
petition.
whole story of the Expanse is kind of like, I think it's 300 years in the future, and humanity's spread out through the solar system, and it's basically like the Earth and then Mars, and they're kind of on equal footing, and then there's the Belters, and basically the belt is where in the asteroid belt people are. I mean, it's kind of like the Old West. In the Old West, there were a lot of people who were making tons of money, and then there were a lot of people who were just working, trying to make it big.
Capitalism.
And so it creates like a separate culture, and it's pretty cool. They created this kind of separate language for the Belters. But then over the course of the show, there's this alien technology involved. There's just there's a lot to describe. Like for me to even like do a season 1 capsule is tough. But basically season 4 of Expanse, and if you haven't watched it, well, spoiler alert, all of these worlds have been opened up to people. And so one group of Belters who have been basically shat upon their whole lives, most Americans basically go to this world and they find that this world has very, very high amounts of like lithium. So they're like, oh, we're going to cash in. Only problem is there's this alien technology there. So they have to deal with that. And then we have our heroes throughout the entire show who end up going there and get between the government entity that's trying to steal the stuff and then the people there, and there's fighting back and forth. And I think Amos is my favorite character of the show. I don't know how you feel about that, but
yeah, he's real.
He's the kind of character who has like no conscience, but he still connects people. He's like,
does.
I can kill or beat up anybody I want to, but at the same time, I can tell that you're like a genuine person and I like you, and then everybody else I don't care about.
But he does. Yeah, he's real. He does have a conscience. But it's basically, if he likes you, then he's gonna do some shit. It's either or. It's like almost black or white, right? So if he likes you, he's gonna do whatever he can to help you out. If he didn't like, he's gonna fucking jack you up. Okay. So there's not really, and he's very kind of black or white. He's the engineer. He's like the mechanic, basically, or whatever. But he likes to knock the shit out of people. He likes to beat people up, right? And he's just kind of simple. He's really simple. He doesn't talk much, and he makes obvious comments, and he likes to fuck and drink and everything, right? So he's kind of simple in that way, right? But this is what I like about the Expanse. He has a depth, right? It's not just your regular grunt mechanic guy, right? He's got this depth to him where there is an empathy, but it's on his terms, right? It's not what you would consider just like the normal. He's kind of an asshole, and he's kind of standoffish, and he's kind of a brute, but he's also empathetic to people he really cares about. So that's what, sorry to.
And really, when it comes down to the show, like, I may look up like a Wikipedia thing because I remember the characters' names. Are you kidding? Sometimes when I see the actor who plays Holden, I feel like he's like the bargain basement version of the guy who played Jon Snow, but maybe not. But he is kind of the conscious. Like, what happens during the course of the show is they follow this group of people who happen to be involved in the biggest events that happen in the solar system over the course of all these years. And they end up getting a ship together, and they become, I think a lot of atheists can kind of compare with this situation where they kind of create their own family. Like maybe your own family's kicked you out, or they're kind of like, I don't like this part of you. And then you find your own. And it's not only a family, it's like a family of, a Belt or someone from Mars, or maybe from people from Earth. And they end up getting together and they're going to defend themselves. And one thing that I do like about like the multi-book thing is you get to see these characters throughout different situations, and storylines can go from one book to 10. You have that character Miller, who is like a gumshoe detective character in Mars, but then he ends up dying and then becomes like a figment of Holden's imagination, helping him kind of connect with the aliens in this. Because we have this it's a very different version of an alien story. Usually the alien story is the big green men, and this is like an alien technology gets sent to Earth, and it looks like the intent of this technology is to get rid of humanity. And then, of course, what does humanity do with this technology? Try to make it into a weapon? Of course, that's what we would do. but it mutates and becomes this whole new thing, and it connects with the humanity that it kind of kills and absorbs, and then it allows humanity to go to different planets and go to the stars. So it opens up humanity, but at the same time might destroy humanity. So there's that aspect of it, which is interesting, and gets played upon even more in the future books and seasons.
Well, okay, so the aspect that you were talking about, as far as kind of the band of outcasts, almost like the band of misfits or whatever. I do like that kind of aspect or whatever. And there's several different things like the interplay of the politics of Martians versus Earthers versus Belters, and there's even an asteroid. Well, the asteroid got jacked up, but I mean, there's all kinds of there's politics. There's there's the moon. I think didn't the moon have some shit? I can't remember. I think people live.
Yeah, and there's the politician on Earth who becomes a bigger character over the course is Christian Avansala, and I think the character is originally from India, but she's the one she's like the politician who just tells everybody to go fuck
I
themselves.
think she's Persian, if I'm not mistaken.
But she becomes, and people who are all like super nationalists, but it's like she becomes the leader of the UN because the UN is controlling the Earth 300 years in the future.
One world government.
And by the way, the Andrew Yang people like at least 50% of the world population is living off like basic assistance because there are no jobs. Where's that coming from? Anyway,
a lot of sci-fi does that though. Yeah. You have to. I mean, you just would have to if everything's mechanized and automated. What the fuck are you supposed to do?
Exactly, but it's I mean, the thing about stories like this, expand it into space. And my wife's not a big fan of space, but it is all about kind of the characters and how they interplay with each other. And there are these big operatic kind of stories for each of the books and each of the seasons, but it's a really good show. So yeah, if you have Amazon, you should definitely check it out because it's kind of like you like to see a story about our future that you think, yeah, that could happen, and that's one of those possibilities anyway.
So that's what I like about the show is it's in the future, right? But it doesn't seem like it's that far fetched, right? So because they never actually have left the solar system, right? So I forgot the guy's name. Is the engine that's named after him made it where they can get near light speed, not light speed, near light
the
speed.
Epstein drive.
Yeah, Epstein.
Oh, I totally forgot about David Statham, the actor who plays like a belter in there, and he's like been like nominated for an Academy Award, and to see him play just like a character actor on a sci-fi Amazon show.
What was he nominated?
He has like a kind of a South African accent almost. Like it's really weird, like the accents they have to do because there's one character who's on like as a Martian, but they say, well, that part of Mars was actually colonized by like Texans, so he has like a bit of a Texan accent going on. So there's these little aspects to it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just the idea that like the technology has gone forward, but not so ridiculously forward. Like I said, it's that engine, that drive has enabled them to spread through the solar system, but they can't go outside their own solar system, right? So that to me, that's more realistic, right?
But the great thing is the ship that gets built to travel to the stars. Who builds that ship? The Mormons. And what happens to that ship? Well, you should really check the show out because it's something else. It gets hijacked.
Yeah, basically.
Doesn't quite make it there, but it's a pretty big part of the story going forward. And I mean, you can see that like sometimes sci-fi, you can see things where you're like, I don't know if I can connect to that, but you can connect to the characters, and then the technology is not too far fetched. Faster than light speed is something that probably people can't connect to, but
because it's impossible.
You can't
under.
Just imagine the distances. I mean, even now for us to get to Mars, I think it's like at least 2 years
right
each way, and that's just to Mars. And Mars is, I don't even know what percentage of our solar system, but to get to Pluto would probably take 100 years at this point with our technology. So
that's the whole thing with the
but
Epstein
it's
drive thing.
something's going to be happening, and it's to see like a quote unquote normal person create technology that expands humanity.
It's just neat. I mean, the best sci-fi is like layered. It's got good characters. It's got depth. It doesn't rely solely on its technology. It's fancy, hardcore sci-fi shit to make it a good story. People have to be at the center of it. Don't have to be, but if you want to make a connection to people who are reading books like this, then you need to at least have compelling characters who are doing this wild ass sci-fi shit, right?
I mean, the books are good, but I am glad that they are doing like Netflix style TV shows where you get 8 to 10 hours to tell a story, because a 2-hour like movie to tell a book's story probably isn't enough.
Yeah, it never works.
So it's good that that's there, and it's good that there's going to be another season, because I'm a big fan of the TV show The Magicians, and this is the last season of that. So there's like all these sci-fi shows that are kind of ending, like Man the High Castle, which we both watched.
Okay.
Ended, and you know what? I just watched it because it had to end. Like, I don't think it was that good of a show. I try to remember the original book by Philip K. Dick. I know I read it, but I feel like the ending was kind of like oblique. Like you didn't really know what was going on.
No, nobody knows what's happening.
Well,
That's the problem.
They took it, but it wasn't. I mean,
okay, so
here's the deal. So alt history, it's a genre I like, but usually alternate history means one thing changes,
speculative fiction,
and then the world changes. In this version of the world, a man actually did pull a gun out in Miami when FDR was going to be president and fired a bunch of shots and missed him. But in this show, he gets killed and the U.S. doesn't get involved in World War II, and Germany wins and eventually nukes D.C. And so in this book, Japan takes over half of America and Germany takes over half of America.
Well,
I still don't think Japan could have possibly invaded and taken over half.
They don't have enough people to do it.
They had a pretty advanced military, but other than them like invading, basically taking over Hawaii and keeping us out of the Pacific, I don't think that could have happened. But Germany, maybe possibly. Anyway, it's basically it's a half Nazi U.S. and a half Japanese, not U.S.
There's a neutral zone in between. Don't leave that part.
There is.
And the neutral zone's where all the cool shit.
But what happened in that show is like every season had a different showrunner, so it didn't have a lot of consistency. So like the final season, they had like this black like communist thing that wasn't part of any of the previous seasons, and somehow they became a big power.
That was neat.
I mean, the only part, the characters just weren't that interesting. The only guy I liked was the John Smith character, who was he was part of the U.S. Army, and then he joined the German Army, and then he got to see what happened when the Nazis took over America, which was terrible and affected his family directly. And then he was like, oh, what did I do? But he never really did anything about it. And in the end of the show, they just kind of were like, we'll just make things better. And then they had to do instead of like in the book, like the Nazis like went into space, but in this, like the Nazis go into alternate universes, and that just didn't quite click.
Did the Nazis go into space in the book? I thought the book just ended just abruptly. As I recall.
They had like the Nazis like going to like Mars and Venus in like the 60s, I think, but I read it a long time ago.
It may, but
I mean, that was one of those things. Like when Philip K. Dick did an alternate history like that wasn't a genre there were very few books. Like the first alternate history book, as far as I know, is I think called Read the Jubilee or something, and it's actually about the South winning the Civil War. And in the story, somebody goes back and reverses it. And that's
What
the most popular one in America, is having the South win the Civil War.
what's the name of this?
I think it's Read the Jubilee or something the Jubilee. I have the ebook, so it's a pretty
Okay,
short book,
I need you to
but it's interesting.
hook me up
I'll send that to you.
or whatever, because I love speculative fiction. That's my shit right there.
I mean, I used to really love like Harry Turtledove. He did tons of it, but I think he must have farmed it out because the dude had like 4 books a year. And his first book was about South Americans going in and winning the Civil War, because what they did is they went back and they just had AK-47s and just MREs, and that helped the South win the war.
Okay, that's interesting.
And I think the South ended up getting rid of slavery at some point, but we'll see if that really would have happened. But yeah, he has a bunch of them. He has one where like the South wins the Civil War, and then World War I, World War II are like the U.S. doing another Civil War, and then a version of Hitler is in the South, that kind of thing. So
that's always fun. Hitler's just easy though. he's so easy because he's just such a paragon of evil, right? That he's the perfect evil villain, right? Because nobody really knew he killed himself, and nobody will ever really know what his motivations really were.
Or did he, according to Netflix?
Oh,
You like those kind of conspiracy stuff, right? Isn't there like there's shows that say, "Oh, he didn't kill himself; he's still alive somewhere."
That would be cool if I hadn't been looking at that shit since the beginning of my life, from In Search of onwards. I'm sick of Hitler conspiracy theories. Can we get other conspiracy?
I mean, that was the only thing about the Man in the High Castle. Like the end of season 1, like Hitler comes in, and he's like, "Oh, I'm this strong, older version of Hitler." Then he dies. So it was kind of like
Hitler was just he had Parkinson's.
I don't think he was going to live a ton longer. It was like, who's going to take over after him might have done something, but
they did do that later. But Man in the High Castle, I don't know. It's okay. I'm gonna give it.
I mean, it's too bad. There are all these shows that like they end and you like, man, what did I do? Like I watched this whole thing and there were some delays between seasons.
It's not.
I mean, they had some interesting characters in the like the Japanese side, like the guy who was like the secret police guy, and then the one, but just the seeing the alternate histories. I felt like they could have done more with that. Maybe it was a budget limitation, but it was like, hey, we have all these versions of the world we can see. And what version do they go see? Our version, of course, because that's what they had to do.
Yeah,
and it's always like, oh, I travel to this different time and I see a different version of myself.
No. See, that was their mistake. When they started doing that whole fucking crazy going into alternate universes shit, I'm like, nope. I don't know what y'all doing, but y'all need to stop. Okay, stick to one world. You can't flesh that one out. How the fuck are you gonna flesh another one out?
Yeah,
I
mean, the only part that I really was striking was where the Germans were erasing American history, and they were like,
that was interesting. Yeah,
taking down, was it melting down the Liberty Bell, making it into a big Nazi symbol, and taking down Lady Liberty, and
they blew. Although to be fair, what they put up besides it was pretty badass, I have to tell you.
Well,
wasn't it? I mean, compared to Lady Liberty, it was kind of but this shit they put up
creepy looking Civil War dude when you're driving into Nashville. It's on the side of the highway. Who is that?
Yeah, I mean,
imagine
if it's fucking Nathan Bedford.
Okay, yeah.
Which we are still fighting about taking his bust out of the state capitol. Because we need this guy in the state capitol. Right.
Heritage, not hate. No.
It might get done. Who the fuck knows? But why are we even having this? That's a whole different thing. Anyway, I get sidetracked on that shit. But the point is, the show was okay, not great. It was something to watch. Some good characters, but
it was Amazon's first show that got a lot of attention. I feel like the Miss Maisel show was probably their one that got the most consistent, since it won awards. I know I'm pretty sure that Man in the High Castle won't get nominated for anything.
No, I mean it was okay, but it
I
was
mean,
too choppy.
if
It
you
was
want to
too.
think it like if you've ever seen the show The Magicians, there's an actor in The
I've
Magicians,
never.
and
I
he's
didn't have to.
also on The Man in the High Castle. And his character, Man in the High Castle, is totally forgettable, and his character in The Magicians is amazing. So yeah,
Well,
there's a difference between the two.
it just goes to show that just because
There's a lot of
the
content out there.
the role is shit doesn't mean the actor is shit, right? Like I don't
Yeah,
know, was fucking Hayden Christensen that bad of an actor, or was the script was that bad? I don't. I've never seen him in anything.
kind of both. Yeah.
Because George Lucas just couldn't write. He knew that. Why the fucking bastard? He couldn't. He had to do all himself. He should have learned, but no, he was so rich. He could
$4 billion
just
bucks. He's okay.
Bill Bloomberg. Bill Bloomberg. It's like Mike
Bill.
Bloomberg with a fucking. He's like the Mike
Bill.
Bloomberg of movies or whatever. You know, he can just. He's got too much money and not enough fucking sense. That's the problem. But anyway, so the Expanse, I'm down with. The Expanse is probably the best sci-fi show I've seen, a series I've seen since Battlestar Galactica, and that was when was that, the 90s?
And yeah, Battlestar Galactica's end. Eh, the show
They
itself
they can't
was
fucking
good.
end anything.
It is tough.
Um,
There have been a lot of shows that I've watched, and I've seen quite a few endings of late. And yeah,
they're garbage.
it's hard to stick it.
So the Expanse, definitely check that out. Man in the High Castle, you can, yeah, it's good because it's different. The plot's interesting. I mean, the premise is interesting. I don't know, the execution leaves a lot to be desired. So, those are my verdicts. I'll say on the Expanse A+, and on Man in the High Castle I'll do C+, I guess.
I mean, there are a lot of things to watch, and I mean, the only thing about these shows, it is good that they're like 10 to 12 episodes, so you can get through them in a hurry. Like I have all like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer shows, but those are 22 episode seasons, so it's like a lot to rewatch it all. There's almost nothing now that's 22 episodes, and I think they figured it out. Like, oh, we can do a 10 episode show, so there are these arcs that go through, but really it's like single episodes and single stories, and it can be done well, but there's a lot of it that's done poorly. So yeah, choose wisely. Don't watch shows you don't like Chris does, and podcasts that you don't like. Okay, Chris is a lot more tolerant. All right,
so we're gonna have to talk about this.
Because, I mean, here we are, an hour 12, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Give a fuck. I mean, what else am I gonna do? Nobody listens anyway. Who gives a fuck? Look, man, I'm listening to bad shit. Okay, I like listening to bad shit.
Last week, I've sent you a lot of things.
So
you listened to all of it, and I tipped my empty beer in your direction. And that way,
Silverman's back in the drama game. Well, he never left. He's always been.
I was like, "What's he on now? What's video been on the last week?"
Oh Lord, let's
Where's
see.
He doing oh wait, you watched him on.
He was on Smalley.
David Smalley, who I was like, wait, he's still in a podcast? Okay.
Yeah, he was on there. And
about me, but they would have to know I have a podcast first. So there you go.
Who else was he? He was on Sargon's. Oh God, I didn't listen to that one.
That got some attention. Yeah.
Well, this new thing. So there's a new thing now. So there's a new charge against him or whatever.
Their charger, his new. Wait, what was it? The Rise in the Phoenix? What was the group where it had the it's a new atheist group, but has a leader who's like
atheist
points guy, like Charlie Kirk territory.
Turning points. Turning
points. Yeah.
Talk about Atheist for Liberty. The one you told me about. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. It was on Twitch or something.
I'm sorry.
I don't have time for that. I need good stuff. I need established shit. So he was on Smalley because apparently there's this big dust up about Rebecca Vitzman. He touched her creepily on her sacrum in a circular motion. Okay. So she's basically charging him. Now she's put out a charge against he's of assault or simple assault or something like that. I don't remember, but he, of course, he got fired by first he was fired by,
he quit. AI, right?
Well,
Because they suspended him.
he was gonna, yeah. So he
Probably.
bowed out gracefully as much as he can, you know. So now he's with the Connery, some other fucking, I don't even know, the guy who did Adult Friend Finder,
Hmm.
who the Connery Foundation. This guy apparently started. I guess they're gonna have another atheist thing where now
You
it's
can
all gonna
keep
be
failing up.
where
It
we
seems.
can just make fun of who can be a bunch of MRAs and incels, and that's fine. I guess I don't know what's happening. That seems about right. But so this is his new charge. He went on Smalley to talk about it, and then Rebecca went on Smalley's show to rebut and all this shit.
Oh, they both were on? Oh.
Yeah,
I still wouldn't
it wasn't pretty.
listen. There's some shows I'm just like, eh.
Well, see, the
I
problem
was
with
just
me
the
is
thing was like even Smalley, like I didn't really care about his politics. I just was tired of listening to his show because I felt like he had all these
poor
great
fucking.
co-hosts on, and he just shit on
Oh,
them and let them leave.
I've known
Some
too many
great,
of them.
like I mean, he had like Alex Jules and Aaron Ra and like these really good co-hosts, but he just
He
he
fucks
had
him
to be the
over,
star,
and yeah, fuck him.
and he has to
That's
make the money. And when you're, I mean, even a semi-popular podcaster, like it's tough to make a living, and I don't even know if he does it anymore. I know he does, and I'll put this in quotes, comedy. To be like a right-wing comedian, you just have to say, I get triggered, and people start laughing, apparently. And you get a Netflix special. I don't know.
That's a big
Sounds
thing
like
now.
that's what's happening, but
Yeah.
non-God bless him, right? I'm in the
Well,
South. Bless his heart.
bless his heart. No, fuck him. That means fuck you. Is what that means for those who need translation
Uh,
to non-southern.
these are the
So
edges of the community that I don't pay attention to, but you do, so good
I
luck.
do. And guess what else I listen to? Did I ever tell you what else I listen to?
I don't know, because
It's white supremacy radio. Okay, so it's something called the Political Cesspool, and the guy who hosts it.
this isn't the one about the N-word.
Oh, that's a different one.
God.
That's the one where Right to Reason douche nugget Robert Stanley decides. Now, to be fair, the name of the episode is what was it? Cancel Culture Part One, right?
Mhm.
And Brent Lee, who was on there, he's an apologetics. He does a podcast. He seems like he's pretty cool. He was on there with Amy with the Y, I guess, as the wokists.
Secular soup, yeah.
Yep. And
I
how
can't
the hell
believe
do
you
you
went
get that many patrons? Okay, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna leave that alone. So they come on basically as the wokists, right? So the big thing now is these people who claim they are. This is a new wokeism, wokist, anti-wokist, wokist day, whatever the fuck, right? So they're big on the term woke. It's funny how I never heard anybody really use that until they used it in that context. I mean, I heard woke, but not to this fucking extent. It's ridiculous. But anyway, and it was them two, our people, we'll say, against your favorite, the guys from Free Thought Profit.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I bet you haven't.
I
I
am,
bet you haven't.
we talked about alternate history. I am living in the alternate history where those two don't exist. So
Mm-hmm.
I've heard like rumors from the alternate universe. So feel free to speak about the alternate universe because there's
Well,
nothing that will benefit me as a human being or anything for me to dive into that pool again.
all right.
So
Well,
feel free to tell me
let's just
how
say
it went.
you've
'Cause
never
it
heard of these
sounds
people.
like
Yes, let's
that
just say
is a
you've never heard of
terrible
these
idea
people.
just to even have this discussion. But I feel like the people who are in it probably were really enthusiastic about it. And
Well, it
makes
was
me sad.
cancel culture,
Yeah,
and
which only happens to people on the left, really, but people on the right profit off it theoretically being a
I
thing.
don't. Well, it
I
started out
mean,
with a
that's my
cancel
idea.
culture thing, right? So the whole idea that like you get like there's this mass protest on social media against your show or whatever, and then you get canceled, which means nobody listens to your shit. You get people get pissed off at you and block you and don't watch your shit, I guess. which to me that just sounds like people making a decision in a
Yeah, it's like
capitalist society. Yeah.
a TV show that people liked and then went downhill. Like, did anyone watch Homeland after season 2? But it's still on. But yeah, if people don't like it content, then they stop listening to it. It doesn't, yeah, I mean, like
Well, their
freedom of speech is
argument,
being attacked. But I guess
yeah, the whole free speech thing. Apparently, they don't really know what that
it's usually
means.
only a one-way street too. Like if
Oh
they
yeah.
never defend people they don't agree with,
I
then
mean,
that'll be a first.
yeah. So the whole idea of people getting canceled, and of course, fucking
Who's been canceled?
John,
Tell me who's been canceled. I want to know.
Mr.
Do you have
Irishman,
examples?
he keeps moving the goalposts or whatever. So he can't really give us an example of what cancel culture actually is and what is actually they get canceled and free speech and blah blah blah. I don't even fucking know. So their argument is that you shouldn't apparently ever say mean things about people on social media. If it's not true, it could ruin your whole life. I guess is the argument. Um, so let's go ahead and just put aside the fact how many women's lives have been ruined by these fucking shitheads like fucking Louis C.K.
Yeah, the Harvey Weinstein situation. Like the people who
Yeah,
came out against him, even though he was found guilty recently, like
and not even of the highest charges.
were people spoke out against Bloomberg, for example, or say Trump. What's happened to them? What happened to the woman who spoke out against Kavanaugh? She had to go into like hiding, and
Yeah,
people were like threatening her life. Is that cancel culture?
So apparently, if you get your fifis hurt, and maybe
Yes.
people gang up on their whole thing is this whole persecution complex, which the right loves to do, and it's funny because they're supposed to be atheists, but they sound an awful lot like fucking persecuted Christians and shit.
I guess for some, it just gets tiring to do the atheist Christian thing because you have a pretty open and shut case, but you never win. So you're like, well, who can I win against? But it's never like a version of an argument. It's like this one person who made this dumb version of a feminist argument. Now let me attack her. And that's what it becomes. And it's like you're just going for like a cheap win. But I just remember hearing these arguments and I'm like, I don't know who like did something to you, but my gosh, what happened? There are so many people. I'm like, what happened? But just life happened. I joke that in our current political environment, the people who are sane are like the really insane people because you should be insane with what's going on.
Yeah, really.
But the people who are like, oh, everybody overreacts to things. Yes, you can find examples of people overreact to anything. But to make it into I don't know, an ethos of some sort, I don't understand that because the people you are aligning with are like fascists. They are using this, like they're using free speech as long as they can take advantage of it. And then when they have power, then they're like, we're taking your power away.
Whatever, dude.
So I don't get it. And I just saw that the episode said the N word and I'm like, why?
You're a beta cuck is what it boils down to.
I felt good about, like, I was like, oh, a couple weeks ago, Robert Stanley had a abortion debate. I thought it was actually a pretty good debate. Okay. But yeah, he had to go here because that's just what happens.
But anyway, a brief overview.
There's a lot of content to be made out of like, look at these people with their crazy ideas.
Yeah, the wokest.
I am in the center though. I'm good. There's no.
They make all the money off the wokists. We should get a cut of that if they're making so much money off our. We should trademark it, really, and I should get a cut.
I don't think it's that impressive.
So somehow it got. There was some case where some dude's reputation was ruined because he said the N word off air, and it got caught, or somebody ratted him out. And it was in the context of something else. He wasn't calling somebody that. He was discussing.
I feel like it was something like
I don't even know
These
what he
old
was.
school radio personalities like Don Imus said something,
It
but he
made
never really got canceled, and he's dead anyway. So I think he had a fine career. It's hard
well,
to show examples of. There are examples of people whose careers have been ruined, but I feel like it tends to be people who are left leaning or
well.
marginalized who don't
Oh,
get
it's
defended by the
it's
people who get mad when white people get attacked because they touch people in the wrong place because they have a bad reputation.
yeah. So this is where the whole thing got started about. Well, in what context can you say it? When could you say it? Can I never say it? Blah blah blah.
Probably shouldn't say it, but
Now, my argument is, and yes, the episode was not supposed to be specifically about that. However, when you look at the show notes, it specifically mentions it. And even if your original intent was for that not to be your topic, you have no black people on your panel, okay? If you're a decent show host, not like I'm some kind of paradigm of fucking badass show hostery or anything, but if you see it going there, I'd be like, oh, we gonna come out here. We ain't got no black people on the panel, so I'm not comfortable without talking about this, right? Robert just need. I'm telling you, he's a shock jock. He's a fucking hack. I mean, obviously, I have problems with him, which is I know that is unusual for you to hear, because I'm
yeah,
usually
do you like anybody?
because I'm usually getting along with everybody so well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was my issue with it. I mean, he just always seems to. I don't know. I don't like the idea of debating just for the sake of it. I mean, if there's some issues that are worthy of debating, but some stuff I just don't see the point.
I feel like there could be a way where you could have a productive discussion, but you'd have to work a lot harder than just to be blatantly controversial, which does happen a lot. Which, you know what, makes me happy that there's so much variety out there. And usually when I'm listening to shows, I'm listening to shows where I'm looking for my next guest or like, here, okay, I'm having this person on. Let me listen to them. So I don't have a show that I regularly listen to on an atheist podcast anymore.
You and your
Even the political
quality
stuff, I'm
listening.
getting tired of that. Goodness gracious.
The what?
It's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Like political stuff. Even people that agree with me, I'm just getting tired of. Because
Well, fuck you too.
huh?
Well, fuck you too.
Exactly.
I don't even listen to.
I want to be negative all the time. I want to listen to go into the
Well,
depths like you do. You dive in there, man.
I'm right in there. I already told you before. The last thing before we, because it's only hour and a half almost. I gotta tell you about the political cesspool. So this guy, the host,
We didn't even get there.
he's like a well-known white supremacist guy. Oh, well, he's not. He's one of those under the. He tries to act like he's
There's a
like
lot.
David, like
Yeah.
David Duke or whatever. And he's been on. He's defending white people's rights. Blah blah blah. One of those guys, right? So he has this radio show that I listen to, right? And this is where I get all the info on what the crazy white people, white supremacist fuckers are saying. Now, this is more targeted. It's like more dog whistly. I mean, not terribly, but they don't say any word, any N word or anything. They use coded language. The other host though is older and he just doesn't give a fuck. He likes to say Jewish power and influence
Oh yeah.
like 100 times, and leftist. Those are his two favorite. Okay, and another thing that they like to talk about is having babies. White people having babies, which is always funny because you can tell they're afraid of being outnumbered by brown people.
What was it? The like Stephen Molyneux who was like just obsessing over Taylor Swift having white babies. Like, oh god, it was just gross. And he's like,
Yeah, I mean, there's levels of this, but this level's a little further towards the the hardcore one, right? He's kind of right in the middle or whatever. But these guys fucking are serious, dude. These guys really think this shit. They really think that white people are persecuted, that every other race gets their way except us. We're like fucking, our race is going down the toilet, I mean, it's so fucking
I've
crazy.
already been there.
I mean, it's like they're so scared. right? It's just crazy to me. And this is what's fucked up to me. Trump is not far enough right for them, right? They don't like Trump that much because he's given in to
I guess.
for
No.
the Jews. He loves Israel, right? They hate Israel, obviously. So anybody who likes Israel that much, they can't like, right? So they don't even like him. In fact, most of the people you consider on the right, they don't like many of them because they're not right. They're not far enough right, or they're not racist enough. So it's just an interesting insight into what these fuckers think. And to be honest with you, I think it's good research because, frankly, they're all coming out of the fucking woodwork now. So I mean, you gotta know what these fuckers are thinking, and they're crazy. I'm telling you, man, they really think this shit, and they're dangerous. This kind of zealots are fucking dangerous, man. I'm telling
And they're getting more power. Like if Trump wins again, I feel like right wing mobs are going to go around and start murdering people, and it's going to get rough. Yeah, I listened to I think it's Jared Holt, like Right Wing Watch, and he had some people on who actually like cover QAnon. Like there was a QAnon conference, and like all those people, it's like, oh boy,
they're
what they
crazy.
think is, oh boy.
Crazy.
And that kind of craziness, that's like Trump had to connect to somebody, and he connected to that group, even though I can't imagine they agree with him a lot of the time, but they agree with him enough.
Well, I mean,
So
there's
that's
good
where we
people on
are.
both sides, you know.
Both sides.
Both sides, bro.
Both sides
Oh,
are just bad. Not.
all right, we're gonna shut it down because I've kept you here too long. I know you got nothing to do, but you gotta sleep.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Zach, thanks for coming on. I accidentally hit something.
I think it's still going. Yeah, we're still on, man.
So thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking us to the soccer match, and thanks for the beer once again.
It's fun to like meet in person with people occasionally, and it's not make a regular thing of it. And you know what? As much as I enjoyed buying beer for myself, which I definitely you can see in my closet, yes, I like finding stuff like I know kind of the styles you like, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's gonna like that. So at least you enjoyed the 1050. You know, the Russian was a shot in the dark. Apparently that was a hoax beer, but the 1050 was good, and yeah, I'll keep looking out for stuff because I'm sure I'll be back up there at some point again before football season. Hopefully, East Atlanta can rebuild, and if you can donate to a cause, please do because there are definitely people in need. This kind of
Thank
stuff
you,
can
sir.
happen more often because we have a government that doesn't kind of care about that. So yeah,
Not really.
you can find groups. There are a lot of groups who are saying they can help, but yeah, you might have to do a little research to find one that's really going to help people out. So make sure to do that if that's possible.
It's hard to tell sometimes. All right, Zach. Well, I'll see you next time, and until next time, y'all take it easy now. Okay.